Okay, hi guys, this is Justin Hyne, and I produced the film Caveat, which we are about to watch, and hopefully I can keep this interesting enough for an hour and a half. Hopefully give you some insights from a sort of producer point of view of how we piece this all together. Here is Lila Sykes, who plays Olga and the infamous Bunny, which has become a little star in his own right. Now, we filmed this in November of 2017 in West Cork, in a place called Bantry House, near Bantry, next to Bantry Bay. And there was in the big sort of stately house, but they have a sort of coach house at the back of it, which is where we built all these sets, and we did some location filming in and around the house. So this is a set we're looking at here. I think 80-90% of everything was built sets. This was a set that we built up, the walls, everything from the floorboards to the wall clutter. And this door she's opening now is a door we sort of staged there, and we've actually transitioned now. This is a different location in the same part of Bantry House. So we're actually now in a basement looking up at a sort of nothing. That door doesn't really lead anywhere. The funds of filmmaking. So we're coming down the stairs now into an actual basement, which was, all the sets were, like I say, built from scratch, and our production designer, Damien Draven, and Finton Collins, our set builder and designer, kind of pieced everything together with the help of Damien McCarthy, our director, and many others who helped out building all these fantastic looking sets. We get a first sort of real glimpse of the eeriness of the bunny here, and Damien will talk a lot about the creative side, so I'll leave that to him. I'll talk about more the production and how we did it. So, and there will be some spoilers. If you haven't watched the film, obviously go ahead and watch it. But the bunny, that bunny was operated. It was a mechanical bunny that usually worked off batteries. I think a switch or something. We wired up a little wire to it that was usually in the actor's sleeve, or the actors were able to operate it themselves, or sort of crew member off camera. Now, this was a basement. This was all sort of built by the design team, and this was a bit of partition wall that we sort of fabricated up in there, and we got Lila to cut this circle. I think from memory, we sort of got to just cut the circle, and that was it. That was the same hole that was used throughout the whole film. I think we might have cut a couple spares for later on. You'll see when we actually, more of this board is cut in case we needed to go back. But I think I could be wrong, but if you look at the actual cut of that hole, this one, in fact, this was a pickup shot we did later on, actually, after filming that reverse, just because Damien wanted to see what she was looking into. What is she looking at? We don't know, but we do transition into Jonathan French, who plays Isaac, and is our lead actor in the film. Hindsight Films, woohoo! This is Ben Kaplan we're hearing now as well, who plays Barrett. Damien McCarthy. I'll just read the credits. Now that line, babysitting, this was a bigger scene. It was probably about 15 minutes of things that happened in this flat before we got to here, and there was a scene where Isaac finds a baby in this apartment, and looks after it till the mother comes home. So that's where that line originated from. Something you quite like doing, babysitting, was a sort of throwback to that. But we cut all of that out mainly for pacing. It just felt like these flat scenes were good, but they didn't fit with the rest of the look and feel of the the sets that we built and the great location that we had. So we kind of minimized what these sets went, or so when these sets were used. And also, I guess, it's a horror film. You don't horror thriller. You don't want to spend too much time at the beginning. You kind of want to get straight into the action, I feel, in a horror. You want to feel where's the hell we're going to, or where's the horror that we're going to, as early as possible. There's got to be more to it than that. Bomb. Yes, caveat. Originally titled The Harness, this film was our working title. We just couldn't come up with a good title. And then director Damien, I think, or was it Finton, came up with, I think Damien came up with Caveat, or Damien will tell, someone came up with the name Caveat, and it sort of fit and felt right. So we kind of stuck with that. So we got one of our, I don't have many, but one of our exteriors here, setting up the island, and the fact that Isaac cannot swim. There's a little, it picks up the card there. That's the card he uses later on to call Barrett. For those that were wondering where that card came from, we picked it up from the car there. Now this is the island off on the right. Only a short distance, but it's like Ben is reeling this rope in, supposedly reeling this boat in. He's actually just reeling a rope in. There's nothing attached to the other end of this. We didn't have the boat at this location. We only had it at the other location, which you'll see in a second. So Ben did a great job of making out there was something heavy on the end of that, when in fact it was just a rope sitting in the water. We're now sort of from the other side of a different lake, or is it the same lake? I can't remember, Damon will say, but where we had access to the boat. And Ben, I think, like, nailed this rowing. If anyone has ever tried to row like those double oars, once you get a hang of it, like riding a bike, they're not too bad. But when you haven't done it at all, or for the first time, it's pretty tricky. So, and Ben did a great job of nailing it straight away there, making it look like he kind of was confident doing it, which was great. So, and even getting out that boat, as you can see, it's sort of trying to get away from him. Luckily, we didn't lose any actors in the water, but it was always a possibility there, and hence why I think he helped Johnny out with that one, just in case. So this is another exterior going up to the house. This was further. I think this wasn't in Bantry House grounds. I think this was further away. Damon will know better, I'd be able to say. But we're now coming into, this was a little kitchen in part of the guest house, not the guest house, or the guest wing. It was like a courtyard coach house. And this was sort of a kitchen that wasn't really used as a kitchen anymore. Hence why it's sort of a bit run down. But we dressed it, but it was already fairly disheveled, so we were okay there. And we walked back into now our pre-built set. With our first glimpse, we saw it earlier actually, with the painting on the wall. You don't really see this painting, it's not really focused on here, but we'll see it a bit later on with along with the other paintings, and a guy called David Casamayor painted those for us to order, and they look fantastic. I love some of this little piece here, Damien's writing, and also Ben's interpretation of it. Sort of, doesn't like getting too close. As he steps right into him, I think that was just these little comedic moments, which is one of Damien's specialities in thriller horror. I think work phenomenally well, because it's that kind of uneasy laugh. It's funny, but there's still something deep and dark going on beneath with the dialogue and the setting. So I think that's good. You want that uncomfortable laughter. It's not a joke particularly, but it is funny. And here is our big caveat of the harness. Keely Harrington, a girl called Keely Harrington, made this lovely leather harness for us. Why are you showing it to me? I love some of this dialogue. Don't run, I'll strap you. Every job has a uniform. I love some of these lines. We did, a lot of people and a lot of you watching this will be screaming at the filmmakers saying it's unbelievable that anyone would ever put this harness on. And Damien and I, when we were, Damien had written this and we were developing the script, and we discussed this for lengths, over some beers and over some coffees. And I think, we were like, why wouldn't it? He would definitely not put this on. We should not have this like this because no one's going to believe that he would wear this harness. And we kind of argued that, it is believable. I think, the goal was to set out Isaac, someone that needed some money, and, 200 a day for someone who has no money and is really down on their luck. We kind of felt it was believable that, when he sees her like this, and that's why Damien put this scene in where, she's catatonic, she's not going to be any harm. Isaac's like, okay, she seems okay. There's nothing particularly threatening with her. Of course, in hindsight, I'll keep using that. That's all part of the branding. But no, seriously, in hindsight, I'm sure he sort of quickly regrets this decision. But especially when, he's not just wearing a harness, but sort of being strapped in and padlocked. I think Ben had fun strapping him in here. And I think there was quite a few giggles off camera. I do love this little pat on the shoulder that Ben gives him here, as he clips this little padlock in. Only a small padlock, but you have to be pretty tough to undo that. Little smile. He's like, there you go, mate. What have you just done? I think he's thinking the same. Puts the key on the side here, and straight away gives the idea of Barrett's character, and already, Damien's goal was quickly this would be a bad idea. She's not a threat, but the guy that's just locked me into this clearly thinks that this is funny, and it kind of is a bit funny, but Isaac's clearly not worried about it. So yeah, so I could talk about the story, but I'll try and keep it to more sort of production side. We see a bit more of the kitchen here. As you can see, some of the walls were peeling away a little bit, but this was all. We didn't do much of that. We put some curtains up, I think, and some plant life coming through, and dressed a bit of this. But a lot of this was sort of shelving, and the stove was already there. Now Johnny, we had a lot of mirrored shots. Obviously, we've seen Olga in this shot. We're now seeing Isaac in this shot, looking down into a creepy basement. I mean, which can hold any number of evils and truths. We did sort of discuss, why doesn't he go straight down and see where this other end of this chain is? But it's pretty dark down there, and there's no real, I don't think I would go down. So we're now in another part of the coach house. This grate and the floorboards there were all put down and built by Finton, and but the walls and the structure was existing already. Like, this bathroom existed already. Another comedic moment of not quite being able to get to the loo. Which obviously sets us up to send him outside and meet the dog. So these reverse shots actually were the shot of Johnny is looking back at the coach house. The reverse shot of where the dog is a completely separate part of Bantry House. sort of a 5-minute walk on the other side of the grounds, but it matched really well. And we actually staged the pots you'll see on the ground to match, just to give some kind of continuity. Those sort of pots and items in the foreground at the bottom, we matched those on this reverse. As you see, we sort of staged those just to make it feel like it was the same area, but he's sort of throwing to nothing and into a different location. Dog was given to or loaned to us by Adrian Looney. Charlie was the dog, and Adrian was our dog handler and owner of Charlie. Charlie did a great job. It's always tricky to work with dogs or animals in general, but he was really good, even when he was tied up on this little lead here. But as we put on there, no, he was perfectly fine. His owner was always there, and he was having good fun with the whole film. I should mention at this point Richard G. Mitchell, who did all of our score for the film. And yeah, Richard's got a great pedigree in the film industry, sort of over 30 years in doing composing and scoring. And I met Richard at a film festival, trying to remember where it was now, in the UK, and he was given a talk on composing, and which was a great talk, and I went up to him afterwards and said, look, we're making a sort of independent film, would you like to be involved? And we got chatting and connected, and he came along and helped out, which was phenomenal for us, because he did an incredible job on this and really led a lot of the film with the score. So we had this little bunny drum, which was added in afterwards, a sort of sound design and mixing. Richard de Malbury did all our mixing and post-production sound, and complemented Richard G. Mitchell's score, and it all blended really well. Now we're still, we're in the coach house still. That sort of stone or brick stone wall is existing, and so I don't know if people realise, but that was actually Isaac, young Isaac, without his beard, or Johnny shaved his beard off, and that was his brother, not his actual brother, but in the film, played by Sam White, who was our location manager, and actually the owner of Bantry House. Well, his family owns Bantry House, so thanks to him and Sophie White and everybody from the family, thank you very much, was able to let us use this fantastic location. So this is another picture painted by David. And really creepy. I love this picture. This is one of these great set pieces that Damien does. It really just builds up the tension. Very simple staging, as you can see. A lot of the set design, we kept it very simplistic in a good way. Just one little table, one makeshift lamps and books, a bed, a picture frame. The picture frame, I think, was sort of in the attic in Bantry House, which we utilised, and we put our picture inside of it, which Damien Draven sort of dressed the picture, printed it, and then dressed it. I can't remember what he put on it, substance-wise, to make it look old and sort of grainy, but it looked really good. As you know, there's not a lot of dialogue up to this point from, Isaac in the house, and we spent a good, I'd have to say, like, I can't remember how, 3, 4, 5 days, maybe not that long. I have to check with Johnny just by himself, picking up all these scenes where it was just him, and it was before he'd met some of the other actors actually. So he did an incredible job carrying this. Obviously, as you guys may or may not know, most films are filmed sort of out of sequence, but he did a great job of carrying all these solo scenes. And now we have our slightly same picture but different. So we had a lot of this. We had a lot of this voice work picked up. This was done after the film in post. Siobhan Burton did this sort of can't quite tell sort of vocals, which worked really well. And Richard mixed that in for us, which really added to that sort of mystery of, is he being warned about something by the bunny and the picture now. Get a close look now of David's work. Sort of, I don't know if it's clear, it's sort of a witch, and there's supposed to be sort of little foxes grabbing at her dress with their teeth. But it looked really good, sort of creepy woman in the woods type picture. It was actually pretty cold on set. I mean, it wasn't freezing, but Johnny's pulling it off well. But it was pretty cold anyway there. And here we see Isaac's first look at the bunny, and how creepy it really looks. We filmed this from behind the stove, sort of behind the actual set itself, to get that reverse. So now we sort of up the fret a little bit. This crossbow was great. It was an actual crossbow, but it was never strung. So it kind of looks like it's loaded, but in fact it was actually a piece of string going round the back of the bolt, with no tension on it whatsoever. It kept flopping off every now and then, which ruined the drama of it. But and in fact, the bolt itself was a fabricated bolt as well. But it worked well. It looked good. And it looked like it was very threatening. I first worked with Lila on a short film. I think it was Wounded Spirit. I think it was called, back in 2013, I think, or 2015. 2015, I think, in the UK, and sort of suggested her to Damien when we were looking at actors for the roles, and she did a great job for us. That is Connor Duane, who plays Olga's dad. We see him in person later on, but that was a sort of first glimpse of him in the picture. Johnny, we cast Johnny late in the process. I think we were looking at a few different actors, and some of them weren't available for whatever reason. And then here we go. Here's Connor, and here's Inma Pavon, who plays Olga's mum. Creepy as hell. And this is actually Olga, looking very smart and pretty, in her younger, before she got a bit dishevelled. And there's our bunny as well, hiding away there, trying to take the limelight of the shot. So a lot happened there. I'll kind of catch up. So Connor, as I say, was Olga's father, helping us out. Did a great job, just coming in for a day. Lila, I say, I worked with her back in the UK, and Johnny, I said, we cast late, not last minute, but he had time to prepare. But we looked at other actors, and then we saw some work of his, and Damon and I were both thinking, yeah, this guy's great. I really think he can do this. And Johnny had not done a feature film before, so this was his sort of debut feature, and we were so happy with what he delivered. Considering, like I say, a lot of the film he was carrying in scenes like this all by himself without having other actors to work off. For any actor at any time, it was a phenomenal job, but for a debut, it was incredible. So, yeah, really pleased with that. And Inma, who plays Olga's mum, we'd worked with her. You might, if you've watched, I think there's a short film might be included on the DVD called Hands, which we did as a sort of not a proof of concept, but just to show investors what we could do. And she played the character in that. You'll see. She's not specifically an actor by trade. She is a dancer and choreographer, and she does great performance dance, and knows how to move her body visually. So while she didn't have any lines, she did an incredible job of making Olga's mum appear so creepy. And yeah, she's a real talent in the film side, but in dance as well. So check her out. I should mention the bunny was created by a girl called Lisa Sagon, who sort of worked with Damien to create this bunny from. Basically, there was an existing drumming bunny puppet that she used, and she completely changed it from, I think, what was a bright pink fur to putting on this fake fur and the eyes and the ears. I think the only bit that's really still original was like the drumsticks and the drum. Maybe, I don't even know. I think she might have even changed those. But did a fantastic job and created this sort of bunny, creepy bunny toy that different to normal. It's not like it's a Chucky kind of film. It's there's a lot of possessed puppets and possessed toys film where they are out to kill people. Actually, I should just jump in on what we're watching here, where if you guys have seen some of Damien's short films, this was sort of a homage to He Dies at the End, which actually starred Finton Collins, who was our set builder on this. So, someone coming up behind you when there's not someone there. But so Lisa created this bunny, and I think, like I say, a lot of the bunnies in horror films are the killers, whereas actually this bunny doesn't really do anything. Actually, kind of plays the good guy role by warning at every point what's going on. And I know a lot of people have commented that they love the bunny and find it super creepy, and we may even create a bunny toy or action figure. Who knows? Maybe if there's enough demand for it, let us know. If the public demands it, we will build it. We thought maybe a kind of a action toy it could be quite fun. So we get a good glimpse. This is the basement now. Like I said, it was an actual structural basement. The stairs existed. All the dressing was our production team, production design team. Even the stake sort of loop in the ground was sort of just put in the ground there. That didn't exist. And the chain, I think, if I remember right, I think the chain Damien found in a market. There's a market in Bantry. It's actually Bantry Bay. There's a little bay there, and there's a market on the bay. I'm pretty sure. I think when he and I were down there one time, he spotted it, big long chain of it. I think it was the same chain that we used. He was like, "Yep, that'll do," because we originally talked about having a very huge, big chain, but he liked the idea of this smaller chain, which is still, you look at that padlock and chain. There's no way you're pulling that off. Now, a few people argued that there are some visible tools in this basement that might have been able to do the job, but we'll argue that he's too worried about other things to think about that. Now here we get our first glimpse of Olga's mother, dead in the basement. Like I said, please, spoilers. There'll be spoilers throughout. I'm sure you've watched the film already. I think we had to... Kieran Fitzgerald, who did all our cinematography on the film, also graded the film. And I believe he had to grade this down a little bit and darken it because I think we could see her too soon on one of these shots. And we didn't want to see her until the torch actually pops on her there. Kieran, but I should mention Kieran did a phenomenal job. This was Kieran's first feature film as director of photography. He's been in the film industry many years, but I believe and been first AC and other times, and I think this was his first sort of director of photography role, and did an incredible job of lighting and shooting this. I love that shot there, Johnny. That's very I don't know, it reminds me of so many film shots, but it just looks very dramatic. I like it. Now here is one of, Damien will talk about this, very few moving shots you'll notice with Damien's style. This was one where we did set up a dolly track and dolly in and out with him there, which I think worked really well. But you'll notice most of the other shots Damien, I'm sure, will speak of, prefers the static shot on the sticks, on the tripod. Again, these other sort of uneasy comical moments of the chain not letting me in, which was the purpose of the chain not letting him in the bedroom. This bit we were like, was it obvious there was a door there before? I'm not sure if it was, but there was like a little cupboard there. It is visible in other shots, but you may not see it. And there's like a vent that goes through, which has always been there, but this is I'm screaming at the camera like, go for the key. Why has he not gone for the key? Why has he gone for the phone? But that was something that I said to Damien, we've got to edit out that key because everyone's going to scream, why not? Is he not going for the key? Interestingly enough, almost everybody that I spoke to when we were test screening, there's the card he looked at there that he picked up from the car earlier. Everyone we talked to on the test screening didn't clock it or didn't think it was an issue. So these are things you spot as filmmakers that maybe are not as big issues as you think they are in your head. I think one of our, I think there was the F word was used 3 times in the film. That was one of them, which we could have got rid of because you can't really see his lips move, and we could have taken it out. There's a couple later on, I think, when Barrett comes back, but I think it works fine for the film. This is all the sets. This corridor was built. The floorboards were built. This wallpaper was put on. The bed existed. We moved that frame from somewhere else. That intercom was put. That's the same intercom in every single shot. We only had one that that we just kept moving around the set. This corridor was great. Now he's sort of contemplating the chain. Should mention that a lot of Damien's family came along. I'm sure he'd talk about it. Helped out as production team, and his mum Eileen and his dad John and Joseph, his brother. Yeah, we had so many people come and help out. Just getting it done. Linda, Miriam McCarthy did the makeup. She was our chief makeup artist on this, and like everybody, did an incredible job. It's tricky when you're filming out of sequence as well, as every filmmaker will tell you, especially when you have a character like Isaac here who's getting progressively more and more disheveled and worse and sweaty. Whenever we had to kind of go back to a previous scene, we had to make sure that he was in the state that he was at that time in the film. So Miriam did a phenomenal job of just keeping log of that, as well as bringing him back to whichever state he should have been in at the time. Which, it's easy to say, and it's these simple things. This all sort of adds up to make a film work. But there's all these little bits that, if you get them wrong, it just doesn't gel. And thankfully we got them right. Piece of a fake glass up here on the window. Yeah, I mean, everything you see here is a set, from the foreground to the background, and even the bathroom behind, when you see it a bit later, was built. Now, I should mention our sound guys on this film who did an incredible job. Hugo Parvery and Sylvan Lebihanic, I think was the correct pronunciation. Apologies for not. Recorded all the sound on set, and as a lot of any filmmakers watching, and probably any viewers as well, bad audio is such a clear sign of so many independent films, and thankfully we got incredible voice recording on set. All recording, actually, even the Foley, and which Foley's the sound sort of made by footsteps and things that you record on set at the same time. So that was great. It was a dream to work with in post. We can hear everything that they're saying, which, again, these things you don't notice until they're not working. The red jacket. So those following the story, and Damien, I'm sure, could talk about it. Again, we give a little throwback to Sam, who plays his brother there. Mike, that was it. I couldn't even remember his brother's name in the film. A nice red leather jacket, very visual. Damien wanted something very visual, clear, that not that it could be misinterpreted as something else. Rob O'Halloran was our first AC on this sort of camera operator, working with Kieran, and we did lots of sort of teams. This is another, as you see, a slow push-in shot. Sort of teams of two. Our sound guys were a team of two. Our video side, the DP and first AC were a team of two. Rob and Kieran, and they did between them basically lit everything, did all the visual camera. It's amazing what you can do when you've got good people working together on a team. But you don't. I love that line. It's like, I think I'd remember killing someone, which is a good comeback, but then her comeback is even better with like, but you don't. And it's like, oh, maybe I don't. It's just her delivery was excellent. Their line's delivery was excellent. Just gives this scene. And Johnny with his eyes here, you can see he's starting to panic, and you see it a bit more in a little bit. Really starts to panic. The character, I should say, not the Johnny as the actor was creating this phenomenal panic in Isaac's eyes about what he can feel, the answer that he kind of knows he's going to get, but obviously doesn't want to get. And here we have Ben Barrett on the other end coming in. We had a very small team on this. I think there was 26 people total, I think, across everything from pre to post. And there's probably about 16 people on set, I think, at any one time. We had Mitchell Harris was on set. He was our DIT, sort of digital imaging technician, which essentially was kind of doing every other task around that, which was basically taking every footage that we got on set and just making sure it recorded correctly. And he was doing piecing together assembly edits on set as well. Just assembly edit is just sort of piecing the footage that you record together as you go, just to make sure it's sort of gelling. And if you're missing something, you can pick it up at the time rather than have to go back and record it later on. So Mitch did a great job on that, and did a little bit of editing in post, of which he sort of started it, and then Damien McCarthy sort of took over the edit and just sort of ran with the edit from there, and pretty much edited the film himself, sort of writer, director, editor. This is Johnny's like, shit, you're right, nobody does. Okay, now the pace builds up, and we now have the panic is really setting in, and a realization as if it wasn't there before. There's just some fun camera work, sort of showing the panic that Isaac had going around. I don't know if you can hear it on the film, but the harness itself, especially on the quiet moments, you hear the floorboards creaking. But actually, every time Johnny breathed in and out, this harness, because it was leather, was making this creaking sound, very subtle, but just worked really well to add to the sort of sound design of the whole piece. And there, now he sees the key finally. This film has a lot of reaching through holes, as you'll know. Uh, I love that. Just that edit there is great. Just it's like suddenly you realise what's going on. Eesh. Oy, nasty. I think Johnny plays this really well because you could have had snap your finger. You could have screamed out loud or shouted or whatever. But I think the subtleness of it works really well. Miriam, makeup artist, fabricated this hand that we see briefly with the finger sort of bent back. This one here was a sort of fabricated hand. Just to show, just very briefly, that in case you hadn't figured it out, that his finger had been bent back. And as he clicks it back into position. So everything here, even these newspapers, Damien Draven created these, part of the production design, printed them, wrote everything on there. If you actually read some of the writing, it's just words that he made up. And we see Inma there, Olga's mum. And this is another thing that you only notice as a filmmaker, but that key is different to that key, which bugged me a lot. But I don't think you'll notice it now because I've mentioned it. But I think I don't think anybody else noticed that, and it doesn't really matter anyway. It's supposed to be the same key. It's a slightly different design. This is where you see all the names roll at the end of a film. Like that, if we'd had $100 million budget for this, there would have literally been someone. Their job would have been make sure the key holder, make sure it's the same key, because we had a few different keys. Someone would have had a job for that. That's why you see so many names at the end, because every little detail someone is owning. On these independent productions, where sort of everybody's wearing multiple hats and you're owning lots of different pieces, and every now and then little bits get missed, but as long as you minimise them, hopefully it works. Now Damien will probably talk about this, but I think we shot a lot of this. So many films you see that are in darkness are overly lit, and you sort of, if you step back and think, you're like, well, hold on, he's only got a candle in his hand, but it's lighting up the entire room. Which I guess, you sort of suspend your disbelief. But Damien, wanted to keep these very dark, these scenes, but focus on Isaac. So the idea is we can always see Isaac and his face and see where he's going. But these, I am aware, these, depending on where you're watching this, if you're watching this in a good high-end cinema, the black levels are really going to be good black levels, and you're going to see all the detail. If you're watching this on a poor quality system or a mobile device or something, I appreciate that you may be thinking that he's walking around in complete darkness here. and you can't see much. So yeah, that's something, you know, to consider, I guess. But Damien wanted to sort of keep this moody and dark, and I think it works really well for what we're trying to achieve. This torch kept running out of batteries. We were using it a lot. So we had a chunk of batteries that we got through. Lots of battery usage throughout filmmaking, as most filmmakers out there will know. So kind of Johnny's exiting the house, so obviously taking the harness off, getting him, again, this is sort of pretty dark here, but he's basically heading back, and we see he's gone back to where the boat was. This was the same location where he got out the boat with Barrett, the steps there that they came up. I hope it was clear enough that the boat is no longer there, so he has no way to get off the island. And as he alluded to earlier, he can't swim, so he's kind of stuck there, and rather stay in the woods, I guess, go back to the warmth of the house, or, well, the safety of the house maybe. I don't know how warm it was. So I can talk a little bit about the production of this film. As I mentioned earlier, we did a short piece with Imma to show to investors to raise the finance for this film, and off the back of that, we got private finance investment, and our two executive producers who put the money up to make the film happen, Maria Resnick and Tom Black, who you'll see in the end credits at the end as exec producers, you know, so much appreciated, because it's as anyone's made an independent film, you know, it does cost money, even if you're, you know, getting favors and people are working for less than they would do normally. You know, everyone was paid on this. Not as much as they would normally earn, but everyone was paid, and it was you know, it costs money to make these films, and it's a risky investment. So, you know, really appreciative to our investors for allowing it to even be a possibility that this film could get out there, and look at it now. You know, it's on Shudder and now on sort of DVD and VOD, and who knows what the future holds for it after this. So you never know. So if there's any filmmakers out there, I appreciate it's tricky, but it like everything, it is possible. Just persevere. So as you say, it was a very small team. You know, we let's say we built these sets. A lot of people worked for very low money and pulled in. You know, it's incredible when you have a great team, what can be achieved. And obviously with Damien at the helm, directing it in his style, has made it the film that it is, which I'm very proud of. Now we're sort of jumping back here to Johnny, or Isaac, young Isaac here, without his beard. And yes, we did shave Johnny's beard on set. we shot everything that we needed for Isaac with the beard, and then I think Damien and I sat down, and you know, I produced this film, but I was first AD on set, so I kind of scheduled it and budgeted it, and so we sat down for I don't know how long, Damien and I, over lunch I think, and we just made sure, have we definitely got every shot we need, checked off every storyboard of Isaac with the beard before we shaved it, because obviously it's very tricky to go back with something like that. So we did, and we shaved it on set, and then we filmed all these scenes where he doesn't have the beard obviously after that time. In case you missed it, that hat on his head is the tea cozy he got from the teapot earlier on, which he's using as a hat, and then it gets used later on for covering up Olga's mother's head. I should also mention Letty as well. Letty did a great job of helping on the production and with all different tasks, and she was helping on production on this one. And in fact, she was, if you go back to the short hands that we used to raise finance for this, there, as Imma pushed the hand through the hole to get the light switch, at the very end there's another hand that comes and grabs Imma's hand, and that hand is Letty's hand. There you go. There's a interesting fact that's probably not interesting to anybody except me, but now you know. This is the idea of these commentaries. You get the behind the scenes of what you wouldn't know unless you were told. We did discuss this bit as well, Damon and I, about why does Johnny not run when he sees her here. And I think Damon quite rightly says, you know, he's kind of accepting, as he's remembering the past, that he's done something bad, so he's kind of accepting his fate there. But then quickly now he's like, oh, hold on, maybe that wasn't such a good idea, accepting my fate, because I was about to be shot. So I think it works. Lila did a great job there of restringing the crossbow with a bit of string, literally, that had no tension on it whatsoever. You know, and there was no bolts fired at all. No bolts sort of moved through the air. They just, you know, the clever bit of sound design and editing at the right point. It appears that she fired and it zoomed past his ear and hit there. But another lovely exterior shot that Kieran captured here. There's a few sort of shots that he sort of grabbed as we were out, and Damon ended up using them in the edit, which were nice transitions. I should say thank you to Tiffany as well, Tiffany Ellen Robinson, who yeah, when I mentioned at the beginning, that opening scene of Isaac and Barrett was about 15 minutes long. She came along and she played the mother of the baby that I mentioned that Isaac was looking after, and had a scene in there with Isaac and Barrett, which you know, really appreciate Tiffany coming along and doing that. And it's always tricky when you have to cut an actor out completely of the film because she was only in that one scene. But it just, the pacing was too slow coming into this house. And as I think you can probably see, the sets and the whole house looks so great that we didn't want to lose our audience by spending 15 minutes in a flat before we got to the house. So, you know, we had to cut that out from an editing point of view and pacing. And in fact, the baby that she was looking after was played by my very own daughter, Amelia Hyne. So it's tricky cutting an actor out of a film. It's very tricky cutting out your own daughter of a film when that was effectively going to be her first ever and possibly last ever acting piece in a film. But so yeah, never an easy task, you know. But you know, not only did we cut Tiffany out, we cut my own daughter out as well. So some things you have to do, the tough decisions. But it worked for the film. It was. I think if we would have lost a lot of our audience in that first 15 minutes, you know, if we hadn't come to the island quicker. So, I'm really pleased we did that in hindsight. we'll see when Amelia grows up if she is also thinking the same way. um, so obviously different Isaac here, shaved up earlier on before he grew the beard, and sort of went downhill before the accident that we'll sort of see a bit later on. This is the hanging of the jacket. For those that didn't spot that actually watching the film, that's where he hung the jacket, and that's where he forgets it. You'll see later on when he runs out the house, he doesn't stop to pick it up, and we just sort of focus on that just to highlight that's where the jacket was and that's where it was left. If you notice the shot earlier of Olga's mother drawing the circles on these paper, this is the same pad, and you'll see the newspaper just in top of screen there. And the bunny, obviously, you see the missing newspaper, and the bunny always trying to steal the shot. This is obviously the chalk paper piece that he wrote, Mo Barrett wants you dead, that we see Mo finds later on. That's what gives Mo Barrett the clue that Isaac had been there. Get a better shot now. It's daylight here. A better shot of that painting, which looks great. And you can see even in broad daylight, or very well lit, let's say, the set design was phenomenal. It all really has character. From every scratch and mark and dirt stain was all painstakingly created from scratch, which is no easy task, and hats off to Damien Draven and Finton Collins, who, amongst with other people as well, but did an incredible job of creating this set and this house. Another sort of mirrored shot. Olga was walking down here earlier. Now we see Isaac coming down. This is supposed to be earlier on in the timeline of the film, and so there's no sort of harness that we visibly see, but we see little ideas. We see the crossbow, we saw the bunny, we see the paper. It's all sort of showing you what's going to come later. Yeah. So we've now transitioned we're now underneath Bantry House itself, in the sort of brickwork underneath the house where all the piping is. So this was really the only time we kind of went to the main house itself, and even then it's a beautiful house, but it's almost too beautiful for the type of film that Damien wanted. So we shot this one underneath the house. Obviously it's very dark, and I was trying to keep Isaac there. And this was quite a long piece originally, before we jumped to that shot of Olga's father. And as you see here, he sort of runs out the house, and the idea is he didn't grab the jacket on the way out. But that was a longer piece under the house, which was really creepy, but it felt a bit too long. So I think for pacing wise, it was chopped back. And Johnny having a little sip there of the sort of non-branded whiskey or whatever it was. I think there's a face in the background there on the window of the door behind that we sort of blocked out. I think someone was watching us film. So we're back in the flat now. I think this is a different flat to the other one. in the same block but a different flat. And obviously Kieran's done a great job with the lighting here. It's just changed the mood from that sort of clean to sort of very warm, moody look. Always kind of feed your crew well. And we had Claudio, who was working in a local restaurant here. So we gave the cast and crew a menu every day in the evening, and they picked the food that they wanted, the meals that they wanted for the following day, and then he made it all to order and delivered it to set, which worked fantastically. I think if you're producing a film, obviously everyone says feed your crew and cast well, but that worked really well. I'm very pleased with that, and he did it for a great price. It still cost a bit of money, but it was to have, so the crew could have something different every day, and it's nice and warm and it turns up, and a good selection of, if they want healthy, if they want junky, it's totally up to them. But we had a good healthy selection of food on there, which was great. So I think that worked really well. So yeah, thank you, Claudio, for that one. So time frame wise, as I said, we shot this in November 2017. The principal photography was pretty good. We shot it in 18 days. It was 3 6-day weeks. So we worked Monday to Saturday. Everyone had Sunday off. Then back to work Monday. And we did it in 3 weeks, 18 days. We pretty much finished on time and on budget for the principal photography, which, this was my first film as producer and as first AD. And very pleased with that. Post-production just took a lot longer. The film didn't complete until 2020, January 2020. We had it all wrapped up. That was we went for a few different people in post-production on the sound that we tried, trial and error. But the biggest item with that was simply the fact that we didn't have massive budget. So while we were paying people in post-production, they kept getting normal paid work that they had to prioritize, which was understandable. So we understandably kept getting pushed back, a month here, 2 months here, 3 months here. And then of course that has a knock-on effect on others. B can't be done until A's done, and C can't be done until B's done. So one thing after another, it just pushed and pushed and pushed. And eventually we got the film completed January 2020, and of course, what a year that was. So it's if I said to Damien when we were filming this in 2017, oh, by the way, when the film's completed, there won't be a cinema open on the planet and there won't be a film festival running in the world, it would have been almost unbelievable. But that's what we ended up with in 2020. Obviously things went virtual, and we were able to get the film into festivals and ultimately get picked up and find its home on Shudder, who have been fantastic with the film. And I'm really pleased it's getting an audience now that it deserves, and gives everyone involved an opportunity to work further and deeper into the industry. So it was a long process, 2017, and that's when we were filming. I mean, Damien was writing the script at the beginning of 2017, I think. And even, originally Damien had another script that we were going to film, but the budget was too high. So I kind of went back to Damien and said, we can't raise the money for the film we want to film, so can you write a script that we can film? Which he very willingly went away and did, and that's where this came from. Hence why it's a sort of single location and minimal actors. But considering everything that we worked with, it's come out incredible. I'm really pleased with it. Couldn't be prouder for a first film for me as producer. It's a great starting block to show what we can do with very little time and very little money, so that when we move on to future films, which we're doing right now with bigger budgets, we can really shine. Not that this doesn't shine, but we can really take it up to the next level. Like I say, this was filmed in Ireland. The production company that we set up to run the film was in the UK, so we benefited from a lot of the UK tax breaks. This is more of a sort of interesting one for filmmakers out there, that we actually shot it under SEIS, the Seed Entrepreneur Investment Scheme, Seed Enterprise Investment Scheme or Entrepreneur Investment Scheme, which allowed us to get really good tax breaks for our investors, and we were also able to claim some good tax reliefs and benefits from the BFI, the British Film Institute, because it was a UK production and sort of set in the UK, albeit filmed in Ireland. I think we're kind of a mix of Johnny here, is from Donegal in Ireland, Lila and Ben, who play Olga and Barrett, both from London, I think, UK. A good majority of the crew were from Ireland, locals, and then we had sort of Letty came over from Spain, Imma was from Spain, our two sound guys, Hugo and Sylvain, were from France. We flew them over specifically, based on their reputation of being really good, and I'm very pleased we did. A lot of the other post-production was in the UK. We're all sort of British, UK, I think. This, I should say, this was really great. I mean, you can see what this looks like on screen. I'm going to completely ruin the magic here by saying that this was free. I think it was 2 or 3 fold-up tables lined up next to each other that he was crawling on top of, that our production design team dressed, and there was there's a bottle there dripping on him. It looked incredible, and it was literally, he was crawling on a set of tables. The magic of filmmaking, but it came out really well. Equally, this was just a partition wall that we put a ladder on, we threw some cables down the side, stuck a drain pipe down there, and then it fits, and it just looks like he's climbing down into this basement space where we see where the mother is. And going back to the earlier point I was making, that this is Imma playing Olga's mother, but the makeup that Miriam did, and Miriam and her team really that did, when we had to come back and shoot another shot like this, we have to put Isaac back into the state that he looks here, which is he's just crawled through a sanitary piping dirty toilet space, so he has to be very sweaty and dirty. And then if we say, actually we need to go back and shoot an earlier scene, we've got to put him back to how he was. So it's some films are filmed chronologically. We didn't film this one chronologically that much, so it's always a task with the makeup and hair and costume and everything, which to keep that consistent. This is what I was saying earlier. I think this is we had a second board that we cut around here so that we could keep the whole of the original board for use for the shots if we needed to go back and do those. Oh, so she's clearly moved her position there, which is quite freaky. Plays the still mother very well. I think this whole scene, it was either this scene or maybe a later piece of this scene, but sort of one best creepy scene at Fright Fest, the UK horror festival. That look and that shot, it's just like, okay, that's really creepy and something's not right. So he speeds up. I mean, it's interesting when you make these films. Oh, actually, I should say this bunny shot here. That was the last shot that we had to do of the bunny drumming. And I kid you not, when Damien called cut at the end of that scene and was happy with it, the bunny mechanism failed, and we absolutely could not get it to drum again. It was so funny because it was like literally a rap for the bunny, and it's as if the bunny knew it because it just didn't work after that. So luckily we had all the shots that we needed for the bunny. But is that like creepy? Did the bunny know? I don't know. I think that might be Miriam's hand. I can't remember, or was it Linda's? Somebody's. That wasn't Lila because she wasn't, when we did that interior shot, she'd already left set because we only had her for about 6 days, I think. So she'd already gone. So obviously this is Lila because we see her, but the reverse shot of her hand coming in through the hole was one of the crew. Again, the shots of her from this angle because they can't keep her on set for 6 extra days just to have a hand coming in. So, and things like that you don't really see. Again, faking the pulling of the tension of the string. Here, I think here we have another 2 F words come in, which we could have cut, but we figured he'd be pretty upset. Really showing his mean side here, Barrett. Ben does a great job of delivering this, just shining a torch in her eyes, just like nasty little things, just show he's not a very nice person. And I think this works as a really great misdirection here. I mean, I was there when we were filming it, obviously, and even when I watched it back first a couple of times, it got me. I was like, oh, I forgot we did that. Because the focus is so much on, oh, what's he looking at? Is he looking at the mum? Can you see the mum? Oh, he sees Isaac. The focus is there. Bang, And this is a bit like Isaac's leg earlier. This is the old sort of wooden board on the back trick with the bolt sort of glued to it. I think Ben pulls off the sort of the pain here really well, because it's sort of like it's in that sort of back part of your shoulder, which is not life threatening, but it's clearly gonna smart a little bit. We did we did sort of discuss, who is the villain here? Is it Olga? Is it Barrett? Is it the bunny? Is it Olga's mum? And I think we kind of resolved the fact that the villain really is Barrett. The bunny is trying to warn Olga, has a few psychological issues, and really is just, thinks Isaac killed her father. And Olga's mum is, if you like, kind of just getting revenge on Barrett and her husband, Olga's father, for killing her. So in fact, really, Barrett is the evil one. This is me sawing this. Uh, I think I was stuffed in that cupboard. Everybody else was doing something else, so I was like, "Oh, I'll saw it." So that's my claim to fame of sawing this board very slowly. So that intercom is the same intercom there as it is in the other corridor, there as it is there. It's the same intercom. It just, we kept moving it for every shot. So I like, this is great as well, because it's not Isaac, and I think everybody is just hoping it's the mother. I mean, we've seen her at the end of the tunnel earlier, but this is now I don't know, as a viewer of horror thriller, I'm like, yeah, I hope this is the mother, because Barrett deserves to get what's coming to him. And this slow pull here. Yeah, I love it. Another lovely exterior shot. I think that was the sun setting, I think, or was it rising? I think it was setting. I can't remember. Um, this was like actually one of the drain basement access that matched where he was going with Olga's dad earlier, and we just sort of matched this to the grate that we used inside. It was the same grate that was normally here. It's just we had Isaac outside, and she's sort of looking down to nothing there. And as before, this was, this in the reverse of two different locations. That's a different location, but we put the pots there to try and match it as before. And this is just a fantastic ending shot with Charlie giving us the perfect look, as does Lila, as does Johnny. Brilliant. And we end. So I think that hopefully that hasn't been too boring, and gives you an insight into what it took to make this film. As our exec producers, Kieran, our DOP, did a great job lighting it, and Hugo, our sound mixer, Richard, I mentioned, our composer. Am I just going to read names off the credits here? No, thank you to everyone involved. It couldn't have been done without everybody because everyone played a part, even small parts, and and it is that synergy of everybody coming together that allows a film to be made and to be as good as it can be. And I'm so pleased with how this came out. So thank you to everybody involved. Thank you to our investors, our cast, our crew, our support team, the families, and the local people around Bantry that really welcomed us as a production and supported us. And you know, everybody involved, even through to distribution, through to MPI Media, who picked up the film and gave us the distribution, and Shudder, who, you know, have taken it to another level. Yeah, it's really appreciative to everybody involved, from start to finish. You know, a project starts with an idea, and then you have to make it happen. So you have to raise finance. You have to go and make the film, and then you have to finish it, and then you have to sell it, and then you have to put. You know, it's just so much that goes on involved, and to get to this point. So thank you so much to everybody. Yeah, I should mention Laura Campos Quenedo did the title card, as it says there, and obviously Claudio, I mentioned, did the catering. The title card was the caveat in that sort of chalk text that looked really good. Leticia, Anna Galliano, Joseph, Linda, Sam mentioned our production team. Dylan was a little production baby that was on set with the Whites, and Amelia was my daughter. There's Tiffany as well. Thank you for being part of the film, Tiffany. And then lots of thanks to everybody knows who they are, but thank you to everybody, all these people that helped make the film happen. As we say, no animals were harmed. Charlie had a great time. And they were filmed at Bantry House in Louround in West Cork. Did I say Southern Cork? Sorry, my apologies. West Cork in Ireland. Beautiful place in the world if you've not been. So check it out, and I'll see you next time.